You know, this community comes from all over the world and from such a diverse variety of perspectives. Nowhere was this more clear to me than on the winter solstice when we were celebrating the turning of darkness to light and showing all kinds of footage of snow and winter and really talking about the short days. And as we went on and on about this and sang songs about the bleak midwinter, and as we'd been going on for a while, a woman quietly said, "Of course, here in Australia, it's the summer solstice." Oh, I forgot. There are people in both hemispheres, in Europe, in the United States, Canada, Asia, Africa, all over the world coming to our services. And so as we explore a topic, as we are tonight, such as the prison system, I want to acknowledge that it's particularly centered in the United States, what I'm talking about, this real trend toward criminalization and prisons. But I think it's also something that the whole world is struggling with in one way or the other. So if you're not from the US, we really value your opinions on this as well. I like that we're exploring this topic the week of the spring equinox, which I know, if you're in the southern hemisphere, is the fall equinox. But the equinoxes, you know, if the solstices are the extremes of light and darkness, the equinoxes are the time of balance of light and darkness. And as we explore this very painful, very challenging topic, I hope that we can find balance. I hope we can find a balance of listening and learning and also sharing our own perspectives, that we can find a balance of thinking about who we are and also the different experiences that other people have with regard to something like prisons. Martin Luther King famously said, "No one is free while others are oppressed." And so as we explore this theme of freedom, it felt important to us to acknowledge this. If no one is free while others are oppressed, then in fact, no one is or ever will be free. Because oppression is here, and I believe, at least in my lifetime, it's not going to go away. So how do I negotiate what it is to be a free and responsible person in this world where some people are oppressed so much and others have so much privilege? For me, it starts in my family. I grew up with a father who was generous as he could be, smart, funny, and also had a very violent temper. And when I say violent, I don't always mean physically violent, but sometimes he was. And the person who for some reason elicited his rage and physical violence was my older brother, much more than the other three of us. So my older brother just for some reason made him so angry that he would frequently attack him. And I grew up in that family system. And so when I first read Martin Luther King's words, "No one is free while others are oppressed," I knew it on an emotional level because living in that household where someone else was being attacked very much affected my own nervous system and very much affected my own sense of freedom, comfort, and trust. Perhaps you have had a similar experience where you have watched someone else be unfairly treated. And when that happens, we have to decide where we're going to locate ourselves in that experience. So one way for me to have made sense of what was happening in my family would have been to say, clearly there's something wrong with my brother and he's bad, because if he weren't bad, he wouldn't be getting attacked. I could have made the decision that something was wrong with him that was not wrong with me. I was good, therefore I wasn't getting attacked, and that could have built some sense of freedom and safety for me. But for reasons I don't know, that isn't the sense I made of it. The sense that I made of it then and now is that something about my brother stimulated my father's rage. It wasn't fair, it wasn't right, and it wasn't logical. It's just what was. So the second decision I had to make was how to feel about that. Should I feel guilty that it was happening to my brother and not to me? And sometimes I did as a kid. But as an adult, I've seen that guilt doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help the people who are suffering. In a way, it's kind of like a cage that you get into. It's very non-freeing. You're kind of paralyzed by guilt and fear, and you just can get into that cage of guilt. And I'm here to say guilt is not the way forward. So that's another decision that you need to make when you observe that other people are suffering in ways that you're not. Guilt doesn't help. And then if you're not going to go the path of guilt, and you're not going to go the path of blame and saying something's wrong with those people, something's wrong with my brother, what do you do? And this is the kind of struggling that I've lived with around issues of race privilege, the fact that just because I'm white, things come to me every day without me lifting a finger that are wonderful privileges. I can walk around and no one assumes that I'm going to steal or hurt. I can drive badly and cops don't single me out and chase me down. I don't try to drive badly, but sometimes I do. I can go into a store and no one follows me around and wonders if I'm going to shoplift. We've talked about race privilege before, and I recommended Peggy McIntosh's wonderful essay, Unpacking the Invisible Knapsack, about white privilege. For those of us who have any kind of privilege, it's invisible. We don't see it because we've always had it. So how would we know that other people don't? Unless we listen to them. And so for me, listening to other people's experience and believing them, even when their experience is different from mine, has been an important part of my journey. The thing about privilege is, those of us who have it have a lot of fear of letting it go. Because we came to it with mother's milk and it's always been there, we're afraid of it. It's not. We don't know what life would be like without it. So we're afraid if we do anything to threaten it, we're going to lose it all. You know, we're just not going to have any life at all. So for me, one antidote to fear, one thing that helps me when I'm afraid, is to take some kind of action. It almost doesn't matter what kind of action. Maggie Kuhn, who founded the Gray Panthers, said, "Stand before the people you're afraid of and speak your mind, even if your voice shakes." Sometimes for me, overcoming fear means speaking my mind, even when my voice shakes. I remember when I decided to say to my father, "I was afraid of you as a child. Childhood was scary." I told him that, and he came at me in full attack mode. He told me anything that was wrong in childhood was my fault and my siblings' faults and how bad we were. And it couldn't have gone worse, honestly. But even then, even when it couldn't have gone worse, there was still freedom for me because it was very clarifying. I said, "Oh, I really didn't make it up. He really is kind of nuts right there." And I backed away. And in fact, that's when I took my own name. I let go of his name and took my own. It gave me power and freedom, even when it went so badly, simply to take some action. So as we sit with this enormous issue of mass incarceration, as we live in a time when in the United States, so many people, especially African American people in our communities, are or have been or will be in jail, where do we find the strength and the courage and the vanquishment of fear to take action? And what do? These are the things I think we need to struggle through together. I wish there were some easy way to do it. I wish that there were some simple, beautiful, perfect way to overcome oppression. But in fact, it's always dirty, grungy, and messy. So how are we going to do it? Well, here at the CLF, we're going to, right after this service tonight, we're going to talk about this book, The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander. Then we're going to have a book read from that. We're going to continue to feature the voices of our own 500-some prison members and what they think we could learn and do if we knew what life was like inside prison. And together, we're going to come up with something I don't know what yet, with not just us, but people all over the country and all over the world who are saying, this isn't right. Enough. We don't want to do this anymore. I'm so excited to be part of this movement. To me, this is struggle. The struggle to move forward, even when it's messy, imperfect, not beautiful, is what it means to be free. Whether or not the prison system is what you're called to work on, I hope for your own sense of freedom that you step up and do something that's scary, that's risky, that takes you worrying that you're going to lose it all. Because where there's that kind of fear, there is freedom on the other side. So whether you want to engage with this prison study or you want to do something else, I strongly encourage you to find the freedom on the other side of your fear.